What if the truest measure of a man is not found in the noise of the world, but in the quiet stillness of his own mind? What if boldness is not about external dominance, but internal mastery? This is the forgotten path to a powerful and purposeful life, and this video will be your guide. 10 Principles of Bold Stoic Masculinity, compiled and published by Stoic Power. Lesson 1. Embracing inner strength. Imagine two sources of water. One is a shallow, sprawling puddle, wide but only an inch deep, completely dependent on the last rainfall. The other is a deep well, its opening small, but its shaft sunk deep into the earth, connected to a vast, unseen aquifer. The puddle is impressive after a storm, but it vanishes under the first hot sun. The well, however, provides cool, clear water, endlessly and reliably, regardless of the weather. We live in a society that encourages men to be the puddle, to spread themselves wide, to reflect the fleeting light of external validation, status, wealth, and the approval of others. This creates a deep inner conflict, as we are taught to build our sense of strength on things that are fundamentally unstable and outside of our control. The painful problem is that this externalized strength is an illusion. It leaves us feeling secretly anxious and brittle, constantly fearing the drought that will inevitably come when the praise stops, the job is lost, or the relationship ends. We become dependent on the rain of external circumstances, leaving our inner world barren and dry. The transformative solution is to stop trying to widen the puddle and instead begin the profound work of digging the well. This means turning inward and embracing the Stoic principle that true strength is not an external acquisition, but an internal quality of character. The core idea is that your strength is not measured by what you have, but by who you are. It is the quality of your thoughts, the integrity of your choices, and the resilience of your spirit in the face of life's pressures. The immense benefit of this shift is the cultivation of a strength that is entirely your own, one that cannot be given to you and therefore can never be taken away. You become the reliable source of your own stability. The actionable step to begin digging this well is to practice a daily internal weather report. Each evening, take a few minutes to write down the day's external events, the successes, the failures, the interactions. Then, on a separate part of the page, write down your internal response. How did you act? Did you maintain your composure? Were you honest? Were you patient? This exercise gently shifts your focus from what happened to you to how you responded. By consistently practicing this, you will begin to draw a clear line between the fluctuating weather of your life and the solid ground of your own character. You will start to derive your self-worth from your own virtuous responses rather than from the chaotic outcomes of the world. This is the foundation of unshakable confidence and true inner power. I urge you to begin this practice tonight. See it not as a chore, but as the most important work you can do, the work of tapping into the inexhaustible wellspring of strength that lies within you. As we learn to draw from this inner source, we must also learn to manage the powerful currents that flow within us. How do we master the wild horses of our own emotions? In our next lesson, we will explore the art of emotional control. Before we continue, subscribe to Stoic Power to join a community dedicated to building real strength from the inside out. Lesson 2. Mastering emotional control. Picture a vast, open plain where a powerful, untamed horse gallops freely. This horse is your emotional energy, full of life, passion, and immense power. Now imagine two men. The first man is thrown about by the horse, clinging on desperately, dragged wherever the animal's whims may take him. The second man is a master rider. He does not break the horse's spirit, but he holds the reins firmly, guiding its power with wisdom, skill, and a light touch. The inner conflict for every man is to become the rider, not the one being dragged. We are taught that emotions are weaknesses to be suppressed or uncontrollable forces that we must surrender to. The painful problem with this false dichotomy is that it leaves us powerless. When we are hijacked by anger, anxiety, or despair, we make poor decisions, damage relationships, and lose our own self-respect. We feel like passengers in our own lives, ruled by impulses that we don't understand and cannot control. This leads to a life of reaction rather than intention, a state of inner chaos that prevents us from achieving our goals. The transformative solution lies in the Stoic understanding that you are not the horse, you are the rider. The goal is not to kill the horse, but to learn how to guide it with wisdom. The core idea is the masterful separation of an event from your judgment about that event. The Stoics taught that we are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them. The horse's sudden bolt is an event. The rider's panicked thought, "I am going to die," is the judgment that creates the terror. The benefit of mastering this separation is profound. You reclaim your power. You are no longer at the mercy of every passing feeling. You can feel the full spectrum of human emotion without letting it dictate your actions, thereby preserving your peace and your ability to act rationally. The clear, actionable step to mastering the reins is to practice the Stoic pause. When you feel a strong, negative emotion begin to rise, do not speak or act. Instead, pause. Take a single deep breath. In that space you have created, mentally label the situation. Say to yourself, "This thing just happened, and now I am feeling the emotion of anger." These are two separate things. The event is external. The feeling is internal. I will not fuse them. I have a choice now. This simple act of pausing and labeling short-circuits the reactive part of your brain and engages your rational mind. By applying this pause consistently, even with minor daily irritations, you will begin to build the mental muscle of emotional discipline. You will find that the space between trigger and response grows longer, and that you have more and more freedom within that space. You become the calm rider who can handle a powerful horse, directing its energy toward a chosen destination instead of being dragged into the wilderness. See every emotional flare-up not as a failure, but as a training opportunity. Now that we have the reins in hand, where do we direct this powerful energy? A rider without a destination is simply wandering. In our next lesson, we will explore the critical importance of living with purposeful action. If you find this approach valuable, like this video to help spread this knowledge to others seeking self-mastery. Lesson 3. Living with purposeful action. Imagine an archer standing in a field. The first archer simply pulls back his bow and lets arrows fly randomly into the sky. He is active, he is expending energy, but his actions have no direction and achieve nothing. The second archer has a target. He plants his feet, controls his breath, and aligns every part of his being, his eye, his arm, his mind, with that single point. Every movement has a purpose. The inner conflict many of us face is living life as the first archer. We are busy, we are active, we chase goals, but we often do so without a clear, unifying purpose, leaving us feeling adrift and unfulfilled. The problem is that a life without a defined purpose is a reactive life. We are pulled in a dozen different directions by the demands of others, by fleeting desires, and by societal expectations. We climb ladders only to find they are leaning against the wrong wall. This leads to a quiet sense of desperation, a feeling that we are wasting our one precious life on things that don't truly matter, even if we can't articulate what does matter. The transformative solution is to become the second archer, to define a clear and virtuous purpose for your life, and to align all your actions with that purpose. The core idea in Stoicism is that the ultimate purpose of life is to live with virtue, in accordance with reason and nature. This means your life's target is not a specific outcome, like wealth or fame, which are not fully in your control, but the quality of your own actions. Your purpose is to be a good person, to act with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance in every situation. The benefit of this is that it gives your life a powerful internal compass. It simplifies decision-making and provides a deep, unshakable sense of meaning that is immune to the ups and downs of fortune. When your purpose is to act with integrity, you can be successful in any moment, simply by choosing to act well. The actionable step to finding your purpose is to craft a personal mission statement. Set aside an hour. At the top of a page, write, "My purpose is to live as a man of," and then list the virtues that matter most to you. Honesty, compassion, courage, discipline. Then, write a few sentences about what that looks like in action. For example, my purpose is to live as a man of integrity and courage. This means I speak the truth even when it is difficult, and I face necessary challenges without avoidance. This statement becomes your target. Once you have this statement, the benefits will unfold daily. Before making a decision, you can ask, does this action align with my purpose? This clarity will empower you to say no to distractions and yes to what truly matters. You stop letting arrows fly at random and become an archer with a noble aim. I urge you to take this exercise seriously. Your purpose is not something you find, it is something you define. This purpose will be your guide, but the path of a purposeful life is never free of obstacles. How do we remain steadfast when faced with life's inevitable hardships? In our next lesson, we will discuss cultivating resilience in adversity. Comment below with one virtue that you will place at the center of your purpose. Lesson 4. Cultivating resilience in adversity. Picture a blacksmith's forge. In one corner lies a lump of raw, unrefined iron. It is brittle, impure, and shapeless. In the heart of the forge, another piece of iron glows white-hot, hammered upon a great anvil. It is plunged into searing fire, then into shocking cold, and struck with powerful, deliberate blows. This process is violent and stressful, yet it is this very process that burns away the impurities and transforms the brittle iron into strong, flexible, and useful steel. The inner conflict we experience is that we wish to be like steel, yet we desperately avoid the forge. We want the strength, but we fear the process. The painful problem is that our modern world teaches us to see adversity as something to be avoided at all costs. We believe a good life is a comfortable life, free from hardship. This makes us fragile. When adversity inevitably strikes, in the form of financial trouble, health issues, or personal failure, we see it as a sign that something has gone wrong. We feel punished and victimized, which only adds psychological suffering to our external problems and prevents us from learning the lessons the hardship contains. The transformative solution is to adopt the mindset of the blacksmith, to see every challenge, every setback, and every difficulty, not as a curse, but as the fire and the hammer that forge our character into steel. The core idea of Stoicism is that adversity is an indispensable part of a virtuous life. It is the training ground for our character. Smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. It is in the crucible of hardship that we are given the opportunity to practice courage, patience, and wisdom. The benefit of this perspective is monumental. It transforms your relationship with difficulty. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "How can I use this to become better?" Challenges cease to be terrifying threats and become valuable opportunities for growth. The actionable step is to begin keeping a forge log. At the end of each week, write down one significant challenge you faced. Then answer 3 questions about it. 1. What virtue was this challenge asking me to practice? Patience, courage, creativity, etc. 2. How did I respond, and how could I have responded more virtuously? 3. What did I learn from this that has made me stronger or wiser? This exercise reframes adversity from a random misfortune into a deliberate training session. By applying this practice, you will start to see your life not as a series of problems to be avoided, but as a curriculum designed for your own strengthening. You will develop a quiet confidence in your ability to handle whatever life throws at you, knowing that even the most difficult experiences are contributing to your development. View every hardship this week as your personal forge. Step into the fire willingly, knowing it is there to purify, not to destroy. This resilience is the bedrock of a strong character, but how do we build upon it, a confidence that is truly unshakable? Our next lesson will focus on building that exact kind of confidence. If this idea of the forge resonates with you, share this video with another man who is facing his own fire. Lesson 5. Building unshakable confidence. Imagine 2 structures on a beach. One is a magnificent sandcastle, elaborate and impressive, admired by all who pass by. The other is a simple, solid lighthouse, built directly on the bedrock. The sandcastle's existence is precarious. A single high tide, a careless foot, or a strong wind can reduce it to nothing. The lighthouse, however, stands firm. It is assailed by the same winds and waves, yet it remains unmoved, its light shining steadily. The inner conflict for many men is that we are taught to build our confidence like a sandcastle, constructing it from the shifting sands of external validation, praise from others, career success, physical appearance, or the affection of a partner. The painful problem is that this type of confidence is incredibly fragile. It makes us anxious and needy, constantly seeking reassurance and terrified of criticism. When the tide of opinion turns, when we fail at a task, when we are rejected, the sandcastle dissolves and we are left with a profound sense of worthlessness. We become chameleons, changing who we are to please others, desperate to protect our fragile structure. The transformative solution is to stop building on the sand and to start building your lighthouse on the bedrock of your own character. The core Stoic idea is that true confidence, or euthymia, a sense of well-being, comes from one place and one place only. Trusting in your own ability to act with virtue and integrity, regardless of the outcome. It is a confidence based not on what others think of you, but on what you think of yourself when you are living in alignment with your own highest principles. The benefit is liberation. You build a form of confidence that is weatherproof. It cannot be washed away by criticism or inflated by praise because it is not dependent on anything external. This allows you to act with authenticity and courage, to speak your mind and to pursue your goals without the crippling fear of disapproval. The actionable step is to start keeping a promise log. Each morning, make one small, simple promise to yourself that is entirely within your control. For example, I will wake up without hitting the snooze button, or I will spend 20 minutes reading a book instead of scrolling, or I will not complain today. At the end of the day, log whether you kept the promise. That's it. The goal is not the task itself, but the act of building self-trust. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, you lay another stone on the bedrock of your lighthouse. You are sending a powerful message to your subconscious mind. I am reliable. I am a man of my word. I can trust myself. Over time, this quiet accumulation of self-trust will build a confidence so deep and solid that the storms of life will break against it in vain. Start today with one small promise. This is not about perfection, but about the consistent practice of earning your own respect. This self-respect is built on a foundation of integrity. But what does it mean to live with integrity in a world of compromise? In our next lesson, we will explore how to define your personal integrity. Before then, please like this video to help us build this community of metaphorical lighthouses. Lesson 6: Defining Personal Integrity. Picture a master mariner navigating the open ocean. His most crucial tool is his compass. In fair weather or foul, in light or darkness, the needle points true north, allowing him to plot his course with certainty. This compass does not care about convenience, popular opinion, or the path of least resistance. It points to a fixed, unchangeable principle. A man's integrity is his internal compass. The inner conflict arises when the storms of life tempt us to ignore our compass. Social pressure, the desire for personal gain, or the fear of conflict can all pull us off course, urging us to navigate by fleeting landmarks rather than by our own true north. The problem is that when we begin to compromise our principles, even in small ways, the needle of our compass begins to wobble. We lose our own self-respect and create a subtle but pervasive sense of inner dissonance. Life becomes confusing and chaotic because we no longer have a reliable tool for navigation. We feel weak and fraudulent because, on some level, we know we are not being true to ourselves. A life without integrity is a life lost at sea. The transformative solution is to consciously and deliberately define your own true north by creating a personal code of conduct rooted in Stoic virtue. The core idea is that integrity is not something you have, but something you do. It is the consistent alignment of your actions with your stated values. For the Stoics, this meant living in accordance with virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance at all times, not just when it is easy. The benefit of living this way is profound clarity and peace of mind. When you have a defined code, difficult decisions become simpler. You are no longer swayed by the siren songs of momentary pleasure or social approval. You have a standard against which to measure your choices, which cultivates a deep sense of wholeness and self-worth. You become a man who can be trusted, most importantly, by himself. The actionable step is to take the time to write your code of conduct. This is not a list of goals, but a set of principles for your behavior. Dedicate a page in a journal to this. You might include principles like, I will speak the truth even if my voice shakes. I will finish what I start. I will treat everyone with a baseline of respect, regardless of their station. I will not blame others for my feelings or my circumstances. I will act with courage in the face of my fears. Keep it simple, clear, and actionable. Once written, this code of conduct becomes your personal constitution. The benefit of this practice is that it makes integrity tangible. It is no longer an abstract concept, but a practical guide for daily living. Read it every morning. Review it every evening. This consistent reinforcement will slowly but surely align your actions with your principles, making integrity your default setting. I urge you to begin drafting your code this week. This is your compass. It will empower you to navigate life with honor and purpose. Of course, a compass is useless if one does not have the courage to follow it into challenging territory. How do we cultivate that courage? Our next lesson will focus on navigating life with courage. Please comment below and share one principle that will be part of your personal code. Lesson 7. Navigating life with courage. Imagine an early explorer preparing to venture into a vast, uncharted wilderness on a map. He knows the territory is filled with unknown dangers, impassable mountains, and hidden threats. Fear is a natural and rational companion on such a journey. The inner conflict he faces is not whether to feel fear, but whether to let that fear determine his actions. A coward would see the dangers and refuse to take the first step. A fool would ignore the dangers and rush in recklessly. The courageous explorer, however, acknowledges the fear, respects the dangers, prepares for them diligently, and then takes the first deliberate step forward, guided by his purpose. Many of us are paralyzed by the first option. We stand at the edge of our own uncharted territories. A difficult conversation, a new career path, a commitment to a relationship, and allow the fear of the unknown to keep us trapped in the safe, familiar, but shrinking map of our current lives. The problem is that a life dictated by fear is a life half-lived. We avoid necessary risks, betray our own potential, and live with the quiet regret of the unexplored path. We become prisoners of our own comfort zones. The transformative solution is to embrace the Stoic definition of courage. It is not the absence of fear, but the judgment that something else is more important than fear. The core idea is that courage is a virtue of action, not a feeling. It is the rational and disciplined choice to act righteously and purposefully, even in the presence of fear, anxiety, or pain. For the Stoics, physical courage was admirable, but moral courage, the courage to stand for your principles, to speak the truth, to face your own flaws, was the highest form. The benefit of cultivating this courage is freedom. You break the chains of anxiety and avoidance. You expand your world by willingly stepping into the unknown, and you build deep self-respect by proving to yourself that you will not be ruled by your fears. The actionable step to develop this courage is to practice a Stoic fear-setting exercise. Take a sheet of paper and divide it into 3 columns. In the first column, write down the action you are afraid to take. In the second, list in detail all of the worst-case scenarios that could happen if you took the action. In the third, for each of those worst-case scenarios, write down specific, practical things you could do to mitigate the damage or recover from it. This exercise takes an amorphous, terrifying fear and exposes it to the light of reason, showing you that you have the resources to handle the consequences. By regularly practicing this exercise, you will find that most of your fears are either unlikely or survivable. This demystifies fear and transforms it from a paralyzing monster into a manageable problem. You become the explorer who is prepared, not reckless. You learn to act in spite of fear, which is the very definition of courage. I challenge you to perform this exercise this week on one fear that has been holding you back. Courage allows us to take bold action, but these actions have consequences. To live a truly masculine and responsible life, we must own these consequences completely. Our next lesson will be on owning your decisions. To support our channel's exploration into these topics, please subscribe to Stoic Power. Lesson 8. Owning your decisions. Picture a judge in a courtroom. After all the evidence has been presented and all arguments have been heard, the judge rises and delivers a final, unambiguous verdict. The judge does not blame the lawyers, the witnesses, or the law itself for the outcome. They take full responsibility for the judgment they have rendered, for it is their role to do so. A man of bold integrity acts as the judge of his own life. The inner conflict we all face is the temptation to abdicate this role, to become a mere commentator in the courtroom of our own lives, pointing fingers and shifting blame. The painful problem is that our culture often encourages a victim mentality. It is easy and socially acceptable to blame our circumstances, our past, our parents, or the system for our failures and shortcomings. When we do this, we give away all of our power. A victim, by definition, cannot change their situation because they believe the cause lies outside of themselves. This mindset, while offering the temporary comfort of blamelessness, ultimately leads to a life of helplessness, resentment, and stagnation. You cannot build a powerful future if you are constantly pointing to the past as the reason for your present condition. The transformative solution is to embrace the Stoic principle of radical ownership. The core idea, articulated powerfully by the philosopher Epictetus, is that while we don't control what happens to us, we have 100% control over, and therefore 100% responsibility for, our response. A bold man owns his actions, his emotions, his interpretations, and his results, full stop. He is the judge who delivers the verdict on his own life. The benefit of this radical ownership is that it is the ultimate source of personal power. The moment you stop blaming, you reclaim the ability to change. If you are responsible for your situation, then you have the power to improve it. This fosters creativity, resourcefulness, and a profound sense of agency. You become the cause, not the effect, in your own life. The actionable step to cultivate this is to implement a daily ownership review. Before you go to sleep, take 5 minutes and review your day. Ask yourself, at what point today did I blame someone or something else for my feelings or my results? How could I reframe this situation from a perspective of complete ownership? What action can I now take, no matter how small, to move forward? This is not about self-flagellation, but about calmly and rationally reclaiming your power. Consistently performing this review will rewire your brain to look for solutions instead of excuses. You will develop a reputation, first with yourself and then with others, as someone who is accountable and reliable. You will be free from the corrosive poison of resentment and the weakness of the victim mentality. You become the judge in your own courtroom, and from that seat of power, you can direct your life with authority. Start this practice tonight. Own your day, and you will begin to own your life. Owning our decisions requires immense discipline, but how do we build that discipline so that it lasts? In our next lesson, we will focus on creating lasting self-discipline. If you appreciate this message of personal responsibility, like this video to signal its importance. Lesson 9. Creating lasting self-discipline. Imagine a fire again. This time, think of 2 types. The first is a wildfire, sparked by a lightning strike of inspiration or a gust of motivation. It burns incredibly hot and bright, consuming everything in its path, but it is uncontrollable and quickly burns itself out, leaving behind a barren landscape. The second is a carefully tended hearth fire. It may not have the spectacular blaze of the wildfire, but it burns steadily, consistently, day and night, providing constant warmth and light. The inner conflict for most people is that we chase the wildfire of motivation. We wait for inspiration to strike before we act, relying on fleeting bursts of enthusiasm to power our efforts. The problem with this approach is that motivation is a fickle and unreliable emotion. It comes and goes with our moods, our energy levels, and our external circumstances. Relying on it for long-term progress is a recipe for failure. It leads to the frustrating cycle of starting strong and then quitting, whether it's a fitness routine, a business venture, or a personal development practice. This erodes our self-trust and reinforces the belief that we are undisciplined. The transformative solution is to stop trying to summon the wildfire and instead learn to be the patient tender of the hearth fire, building lasting self-discipline through systems and habits. The core Stoic idea is that discipline is not about having superhuman willpower. It is about creating a structure in your life that makes virtuous action the path of least resistance. It's about designing your environment and your routines in such a way that you don't need to rely on motivation. As the Stoics would say, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. The benefit is that your progress becomes automatic and sustainable. You conserve your precious willpower for true emergencies because your daily positive actions are carried out by the power of habit. This creates unstoppable momentum and is the truest key to achieving any long-term goal. The actionable step to build this system is to practice habit stacking. Identify a new, small, disciplined habit you want to install. Then, identify a solid, existing habit you already perform every day without fail, like brushing your teeth or making coffee. The formula is, after current habit, I will new habit. For example, after I brush my teeth in the morning, I will immediately do 10 push-ups. Or, after I pour my first cup of coffee, I will immediately open my journal and write 1 sentence. The existing habit acts as the trigger for the new one. By linking the new desired behavior to an established neural pathway, you make it dramatically easier to execute. The key is to start ridiculously small. The goal is not to get a great workout, but to master the art of showing up. Once the habit of doing 10 push-ups is automatic, you can increase the number. This is how you tend the fire, adding one small piece of wood at a time until it is a steady, roaring blaze. Start with one habit stacked this week. Make it so easy you can't say no. This is the path to building the kind of discipline that creates real, lasting change. This discipline is the key that unlocks the door to our ultimate goal. What lies behind that door? Our final lesson will reveal the ultimate aim of all this work, achieving mental freedom. What is one habit you will stack this week? Share it in the comments to make a public commitment. Lesson 10. Achieving mental freedom. Imagine a man sitting in a prison cell. The walls are thick, the door is barred, but upon closer inspection, you see that the door is unlocked and the key is hanging on a hook inside the cell. The prisoner is so accustomed to the confines of his cage, so identified with his status as a prisoner, that he never even thinks to test the door. He remains enslaved not by the lock, but by his own mind. This is the final and most profound inner conflict we face. We are all born into this cell, imprisoned by our own irrational fears, our insatiable desires, our sensitivity to the opinions of others, and our attachment to things we cannot control. The painful problem is that even when we achieve external success, wealth, status, relationships, we often still feel trapped. We are anxious about losing what we have, resentful about what we don't, and constantly performing for an audience of our peers. We are not free. We are sophisticated prisoners in a gilded cage, enslaved by our own untamed minds. The transformative solution, the ultimate purpose of all Stoic practice, is to realize that the key has been in the cell with you all along. It is the courageous act of using your reason to unlock the door and walk out into the fresh air of mental freedom. The core idea of Stoicism is that freedom is not a matter of external circumstances, but an internal state of being. The only true freedom Epictetus taught is the freedom from the passions, the grip of irrational emotions like fear, lust, and anger, and the freedom from attachment to external things. This state, known as apatheia, is not apathy, but a serene, unshakable tranquility born from mastering your inner world. The benefit is the highest possible human good, a life of profound peace, purpose, and joy that is completely independent of the chaotic whims of fortune. You become the master of your own soul, free from the psychological chains that bind most of humanity. The actionable step to begin unlocking this door is the regular practice of the view from above, which we have touched upon. Make this your cornerstone practice. Every day, mentally zoom out from your immediate concerns. See yourself in your room, your city, your country. See the earth as a tiny speck in the vastness of the cosmos. Contemplate the sweep of geological time, the rise and fall of empires, the billions of lives that have come and gone. From this grand perspective, look back at your anxieties, your desires, your fears. See them for what they are: temporary, insignificant disturbances on a vast canvas. This practice systematically dismantles the ego, which is the warden of your inner prison. It starves your anxieties of their perceived importance and loosens the grip of your attachments. It allows you to see the world with clarity and perspective. You are not just the prisoner, you are also the cosmos observing itself. This is the key. Use it every day. View this not as an escape from life, but as a way to engage with it more fully, with wisdom and tranquility. This is the path to true freedom, the ultimate expression of a bold and well-lived life. We have journeyed through 10 foundational principles, from embracing the wellspring of inner strength to unlocking the door of mental freedom. This path teaches us that true masculine boldness is not found in external power, but in the quiet, consistent, and courageous mastery of oneself. Thank you for dedicating your time to exploring these powerful ideas. If this journey has resonated with you, please like this video, comment with your greatest takeaway, and subscribe to Stoic Power to continue building your inner citadel with us.